Greetings, internet stranger. Thank you very much for clicking on my video. You could have watched any other video, but you chose mine, so thank you very much. I appreciate it. Last video got so much more attention than I expected, so thank you to everyone who liked, commented, and, subscribed from the last video. You guys don't know how much your time means to me. I also tried to reply. I think I managed to do so successfully, reply to every single comment, so, props to me, baby. Before I get into the video, a little warning that this is a bit of a downer. I was struggling on figuring out how to end the video because I got a little sad writing the script for this one. But if you relate to any of my talking points, let me know down in the comments, because not only does it help out my engagement, but it's also a treat seeing your guys' opinions, and it makes me feel a little less lonely that I'm not the only one who feels this way. But anyways, let's get into it. Do you guys remember this movie? This is the 2010 Karate Kid movie, and I watched it when I was younger. It was a time before streaming services, so we had to buy the physical CD disc copy of this movie. And if you guys grew up at this time with this kind of setup, you'd know that variety is a luxury, and needless to say, I watched this movie multiple times. I think it even probably also jump-started my interest in Chinese culture and media. It's also pretty funny that despite the title being Karate Kid, there's no karate. So, for those unaware, the 2010 Karate Kid is a reboot of the 1984 film with the same title, but instead of it featuring karate, as I mentioned, it featured kung fu. The movie is about a kid named Dre Parker moving to China with his mom, and for a kid, a sudden change of environment can be jarring. Different language, different school, different culture, different huzz. The story covers his journey being taught kung fu by Jackie Chan, and in the end, winning a kung fu tournament and gets the girl, and everybody claps and everybody's happy, and yeah. Yippee. We all get the happy ending, and it feels nice, but watching it again with a more developed brain, it made me ask, what about everybody else? There was a bunch of other kids that entered that tournament, and they probably dreamed of doing the same that Dre did, so what about their dreams? Ever since I was young, for as long as I can remember, the underdog story / trope in media has always been my favorite. I love rooting for the little guy, the satisfying feeling you get when Mr. Protagonist finally achieves his dreams, get recognized by his classmates or peers, earns his parents' respect, gets the girl. It feels good. It's very nice, and I like it. I really gravitated to the scrawny, nerdy archetype that shows in movies had, whether it's like in romance films, superheroes, cartoons, animes. Losers were my favorite. They were my bread and butter. FYI, I reference mostly male-led movies and shows here because, I relate to them as a boy, of course. In these movies, the protagonist usually has a wild dream of, being the best at something. Maybe it's fighting, maybe it's music, maybe it's dragon hunting. And in the end, there's always this feel-good scene of everybody coming together, everything working out, and everybody congratulating the protagonist. And it all feels good, but again, it makes you wonder, what about everyone else? I feel like one of the reasons I got this idea for a video is because of these videos that have been floating on YouTube, where YouTubers explore movies and stories in the perspective of the other characters other than the main protagonist. And it makes you think about everyone else in these stories. Because for every Dre Parker who wins the tournament, there's a bunch of other heartbroken kids that didn't really stand a chance. In the Philippines, there's a thing people like to say to each other when talking about dreams. Libre lang mangarap. And it roughly translates to dreaming has no cost. It's a thing people say to each other to remind them that you can dream as high as you want. You can dream about anything that you want and that it costs nothing. Aim for the moon. If you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. Personally, I don't think so. I don't think the dreaming is free. To me, dreaming is a gamble, and I'll get back to it, but just remember this part, okay? Story time. When the lockdown hit, I was going into my second year of college, and I was taking IT at PUP at the time. A classmate of mine wanted to take an entrance exam for a different university to study music, and she asked me if I wanted to do the same since, I like doing and making music. And since my first choice ever since I was younger and has always been music, I wanted to give it a shot. Even before I started college, I wanted to enroll in schools with music courses, but my parents asked me to go to a state university to help out with money, since here in the Philippines, state universities don't charge for anything if you're going into college. Anyways, I signed up for the exam. I studied my ass off. I wasn't very good at reading sheet music, and this exam had solfege, which is basically just reading and singing off sheet music. I had a friend teach me, I had notes, and I practiced every single day. I memorized everything I can. And then when exam day came, I nailed that, dude. I felt so livid, and I told my parents, and they were excited for me as well, since this school had a pretty good reputation with pretty high standards. So if you studied here, people usually have two assumptions for you. You either were very rich or very smart. I passed the written exam, but apparently I wasn't in yet. I had to go through like the second stage or the other half of the entrance exam, which was the interview. And personally, at the time, I felt very confident and very excited for myself. Apparently, I failed the interview. And oh my God, my heart shattered. This is probably the biggest heartbreak I have ever experienced. And it's weird because I never really cared for school. I was the type of student to just do what I needed to do to pass, and that was it. I feel like a big part of the reason that this really broke my heart is the fact that it felt like I was letting down all of the people in my life, my family, and like my friends that were really excited for me. And of course, it felt like I was letting down my younger me, who always wanted to do music for a living. And this is the moment that I got hit by the reality of hindi libre mangarap. Dreaming costed me something. I wanted something so bad that it broke my heart. It's the same thing I see with gamers who get mad. Because you only ever get mad at a game if you really care about it, right? If you really care about the LP you just lost or the 10 diamonds you found in the cave after exploring for 20 minutes. And what I noticed is that this hurt more the closer I thought I was. Because I passed the exam. I was right there. But I guess it wasn't for me. And the fact that I was this close to getting what I wanted made the fall even more brutal. Because if I never passed the exam, I feel like I would set my expectations properly. And I can say that I've been always realistic with the things I dreamed of and the things that I wanted. Because when I was younger, I dreamt of playing drums at our church because it was possible. When I figured out music production, I dreamt of making it big as a lo-fi bedroom artist. And then when I made music for a game development team for the first time, I wanted to make it as a game composer. I feel like I was always modest with my dreams, fitting my expectations to what is possible. And for as long as I can remember, I always made sure to ground myself in the reality of whatever I wanted. I do think this side of my personality came from my parents and how they raised me. At least I assume. Because I remember when I was younger, they would be very honest with me and my siblings. Like, whenever we'd ask for a toy or something, they just straight up tell us that we can't afford it. And this sort of attitude was probably ingrained in my brain where like I would say, oh, I want this thing, but I can't. And it seems very reminiscent of the over-the-top toxic trait that I had for a while back with it is what it is mindset. And I use that with all of my life's hurdles. I had this phase where, like, I guess it's been a personality of mine for so long, where a struggle or any inconvenience in life, I would just throw in the towel and tell myself, you know what, it is what it is, without actually trying to do anything about the situation. I feel like I've gotten better with that. I feel like I've gotten past that phase, and I'll probably make a video about that sometime in the future. So if you guys are interested, consider subscribing. I like attention, and I feel like I'd be lying if I said I didn't, but I like attention, at least the good kind, and I like to think that as much as I enjoy attention, I do handle it well. I can be sensitive at times, and of course with attention comes criticism, and as well as bad faith people, of course. And growing up, I've started to feel like a background character in the grand scheme of things. Weirdly enough, I don't think I've ever felt like this, ever, in the past, or more so as a child, because I never really sought after being the center of attention, because kid me saw the world as my own. You know, I was the protagonist of my own movie. And no matter what I did or where I'd end up, successful music artist or office job, I was my own leading role. But now, I feel like a footnote. I feel like one of those kids in that kung fu tournament, desperately wanting to win, but you know, of course, I'm not the hero of the story. I recently went back to watching My Hero Academia, and right now I'm nearing the end of the entire series, so spoilers if you guys care. There's this character named Monoma, and he's one of the secondary background characters, and in the final moments of the show, he gets his moment where he's involved in the final war, and then he had this monologue of how he felt like he was a side character of an overarching story, and that he wanted to be the hero everyone looked at. But for most of the show, he's no more than a background character, sitting behind everyone else in Class A. Monoma's little monologue got me a little teary-eyed because, you know, he wanted the spotlight. He wanted to be in the spotlight. It was just never for him. And unlike him, I'm scared to take up space. And it's not that I don't like attention. Again, I actually do like attention. I'm just scared of taking space that's supposedly reserved for someone else. I don't want to be that movie extra that's doing too much. You guys know what I mean? I feel trapped between my willingness to showcase my art to the world and my fear of people wanting to see someone or something else, or like taking a spot that's not supposed to be mine. Recently, I watched a Leve concert with my girlfriend. I have a picture of someone leaving their shoe in the arena. While watching her, I felt this wave of fear and sadness in my mind, grounding me in my reality. You will never be able to do this. Leve is one of hundreds, if not thousands, of aspiring artists wanting to tour the world. And statistically, it just felt easier to lump myself as one of those hundreds of thousands. Watching artists like her nowadays, in a way, breaks my heart. Because, you know, I dreamed. I had the feeling of being close to it. I've just come to realize that it's just not for me. And Leve, even before, was really endearing for me to watch, to the point where I even wrote a song back then inspired by her style. Watching her covers on YouTube made me think she was timid. She looked like a nerd. And she looked like she dreams of touring the world and having millions worldwide listen to her songs. And she did it. Truth be told, I still haven't gone past this feeling. I still do feel like a background character. I so desperately want to get back to my content state of mind, but it's just so hard letting go of a promise, knowing you've wanted this promise to be met for so long. It's so hard to take up space. It genuinely is, which is probably why I enjoy making these videos a lot, because I don't feel bad taking up space here because nobody else is here fighting for the center spot. I don't feel the need to cling onto a promise because I'm the only person who dictates and expects how things go. And in a way, I've gone back to my content state of mind, at least in this sort of setup. In a way, I don't feel like I'm walking into a spotlight with YouTube. It feels like you guys are pointing the spotlight at me because, you know, you wanna know my thoughts and hear what I have to say. And in this medium, with me setting up my own expectations with no one else to worry about, I can confidently say that at least here, libre lang mangarap.